Okay, call the meeting to order.
Some additional things.
Okay.
I have 2 letters that I wish to be sent out from council, and I have a discussion about the LMLGA civics thing that we've all been invited to.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's $185 each, and I'm wondering if one of us wants to go and then come back and tell the rest of us.
You're volunteering?
No,
No.
really.
Okay. Fire truck livery. Okay.
Try that.
Livery. L-I-V-E-R-Y. Livery.
Oh. I got it.
Yes, but there aren't many. Anybody else?
And I have 3 items I phoned it in to the city hall, so they've got on record.
Okay, just tell us what they are.
Ranch Park, Glen Park, and Mayardville.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? No. Suddenly got a barrage of new items. Okay. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Worship. First item are minutes of the council and committee meeting held Monday, October 21st. Recommendations that the committee approve those minutes.
So moved. Second. Brent and Neil, all in favor, opposed, carried unanimously.
Item 2 is a report of Manager, Community Recreation and Culture Services related to the Coquitlam Evergreen Line Public Art Task Force update. The recommendation is that the committee receive the report for information.
So moved. Second. Moved by Councilor Neil, second by Councilor Nicholson. In favor, opposed, carried unanimously.
Item 3 is report of Acting General Manager, Engineering and Public Works related to the City Centre Civic Campus Thermonex system. The recommendation is that the committee receive the report for information.
Motion.
I'll move it.
Receive.
I have a question.
Second by Nicholson. Councilor Reid.
Thank you. I read this with great interest because when we were doing the Poirier Rec Center, it was of interest to me that the, I believe it was Task, was doing that for us? And it was their suggestion that they just put that little bit of extra piping and infrastructure in to go across the street in case we might want to use it at some time. And I thought that was great. So I've read this. And you somewhat discuss it in here, but not totally to my satisfaction. One question is the payback time. Who's beeping?
Feedback box on. Yes. We asked for feedback and we're getting it.
Just wait till I get started. Okay, so when you talk in here about a payback of 23 years, I only have 2 questions. When you talk in here about a payback of 23 years, I'm questioning that because is the system going to last 23 years? Because there's talk in here somewhere as well of the system at Poirier requiring some little jiggles now or in the next 5 years. So payback might be 23 years, but if I have to put a whole bunch of money in before that time, I want to know. And the second question is this the right time for us to be doing this? And if it is, are we going to put enough capacity in this system to look at some large, we're obviously going to have to redo the cultural center, we need more facilities here. Is it going to be enough to capture all of that in this price? I'm done.
Yes, Your Worship. In terms of the payback and the 23-year payback, obviously that's a fairly long payback. We're also hoping to improve on that through getting some grant funding that we're going to be applying for. But in terms of the Thermonex system, it does rely on more standard infrastructure like boilers, etc., in the existing buildings, and it shares energy between the buildings. So, you're always going to have that ongoing maintenance and replacement program for those boilers. But the nice thing is that the pipes that are going to be interconnecting between the buildings that are proposed have a life expectancy much longer than that. As well, it is expandable, as we do just touch on in the report, to other civic facilities in the surrounding area, including any potential expansion plans that the city may have.
So expandable at more cost, or do you buy one giant piece of equipment that just works for everything?
It would be expandable by adding some interconnectivity of the piping system, but that is going to be interconnecting the City Hall and the Evergreen Cultural Center and the Aquatic Center. So if it was on the same site, not much of an additional expansion in terms of interconnectivity. If it's on another site, we're already on 3 quadrants, so we can easily interconnect with newer expanded buildings on those quadrants.
So in this big whatever animal that runs it all, doesn't have to be really huge to run all 4 corners as opposed to running 1 or 2.
No, and in fact, you can see, I think it's relying on boilers that are already in the different facilities and balancing between the different facilities. So you do have some heating and cooling towers, and you may have to have some additional costs to bring on a new building, for example. You'd have to look at the system, and there may be some additional cost to integrate additional buildings. But that would be cost effective because you've already got a lot of the piping in terms of interconnection of facilities.
So the Fortis one would not be a better, even though it's more expensive in the beginning. It's just not going to, we're not going to see the money back.
Yeah, again, the Fortis proposal that we did receive, and it's touched on in a high level in the report, was not having a payback at all. In fact, it was costing more.
I saw that.
So it's difficult to make that system, to argue for a business case for that
So I
system.
need to know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Councilor Nicholson?
Thank you. So I'm not quite clear on how the payback's calculated, because if I take an annual saving of 115 over 23 years, that gives me 2.6 mil. And you've got a capital cost of 3.5, so
Yeah, I think, Your Worship, the disconnect there is that we're taking the net additional costs. We already have some boiler replacements to do, some scheduled work that's planned in the facilities at this time, which is about $800,000 worth of work. So after taking off those costs that we would have to incur anyway, the payback is on, I think it's 2.3 million-ish.
the marginal capital cost
Marginal
that you need to recover.
additional cost, that's correct. Yeah.
Would those capital works being done today rather than several years ago not produce efficiencies themselves somewhat lesser than the Thermomex system, but I would hope somewhat better than what we're operating today?
Yeah, do you know the answer to that?
It's those replacements would be like for like equipment. So no, there's no savings of significance.
Okay, so it'd be like for like.
Yes.
And the other question was, I know with the system operating at Poirier, we've had to add one pre-qualified person in order to make sure that operates at peak efficiency all the time. Would we be looking at an additional operating cost to operate the system here, and is that being factored into the annual savings?
Your Worship, we have discussed this issue with our facilities people, and no, that same resource would be used to do this Thermonex. In fact, now that we do have one Thermonex system, we're able to be familiar with the operation of the system and be able to benefit from that new HVAC person that has been added.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor O'Neill?
Yeah, my questions were along the same line as Councillor Nicholson's, and I just want to review these figures again. So the capital cost for this would be about $3.5 million, as you said, and and yet the savings of a lifetime would be $2.6 million. You said, well, it can still be cost efficient because you basically subtract $800,000 from the $3.5 million because we were going to be having to spend that anyway in boilers and things like that. So $3.5 million minus $800,000 is $2.7 million, which is $100,000 more than the savings. at the earlier stated savings of 2.6 million.
The reduction was one. The others, normalized expenditure was around 1.2.
Yeah.
Normalized expenditure, I don't understand that.
The expenditure in any event would have been 1.2.
Ah, okay. So everybody's teaming up here, which is great.
So
Try
it's
to understand it.
a net of 2.7 million.
Net of 2.7. So I, reading through all this, I was also thinking, when I was a little boy, I used to throw pennies into wishing wells and would hope that my wishes would come true. We are throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars into this system, and I have no doubt that it will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by the city. I have no doubt that it will lower our energy costs substantially. And I have no doubt as well that it will also help us meet the terms of the Climate Action Charter, the general one and the more specific one on the corporate greenhouse gas as well. But I think we're all wishing and hoping and praying that we're actually going to have any impact whatsoever on great and unknown forces of nature that contribute to our weather. So I want to get that on the record. We don't really know it. No one really knows. We're spending all this money doing all of this, following all of these rules and regulations and trying to adhere to the promises we made. And we're throwing pennies in a wishing well, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Rasmussen.
Well, thank you. It's a good report. I like the idea and the direction. I know when we, council, decide on the Thermonex system with the new technology, and a bit of leap of faith on council's and staff parts, but it has produced better results than what we were originally estimating, from 33 to 37% of the annual report. I guess my other question comes back that if we don't meet the goals, we have which comes back to us, there's a levy from the provincial government under the Climate Action Charter where cities have, or local governments have to be at. And I think, John, we were talking one time, it's $175,000, but we get to keep that money and invest it in this money. So I guess my question is, if we're at 25%, we don't move on this and invest in this, we'll still be, if we don't make our targets, expecting to take out of our budget monies that stays with us for these type of projects.
So just to bring us back a little bit, the city made one commitment and then established one goal. So the commitment we made under the Climate Action Charter is to achieve carbon neutrality.
2050.
No, carbon neutrality for 2012.
20, okay.
And at the time that Climate Action Charter came out, that was the only option, was this carbon neutrality. Over time, since then, the province came out with a new category called Making Progress. So those local governments that don't actually achieve carbon neutrality as they committed could fall under this category of Making Progress, which the city of Coquitlam falls under. At the same time as the city of Coquitlam signed on to the Climate Action Charter, our city made set a further goal, which is to reduce our overall corporate footprint by 30% by 2015. And that goal was made outside of the charter. So it's a goal that our city made or set just to demonstrate its commitment and take our actions one step further. And so this project in this report will allow the city to achieve that goal of a total 30% reduction by 2015.
But we don't have to pay anything.
We don't have to pay anything, and under the Climate Action Charter and the commitment to achieve carbon neutrality, we also don't have to pay anything so long as we're falling within that category, and the province continues to allow that category of making progress towards carbon neutrality.
Okay. I like the report and I like the direction because I think we have a responsibility. And I can understand and I share some of the concerns about what Councillor O'Neill stated about how much of effect we've done. But if the rest of the region and businesses are having to do a carbon reduction, we should all do our part. And I think while there's a cost of $300,000 for us to make up the difference with what is already within our budget and budgeted for this, I think that's incumbent of us to show that type of leadership. And I think the good thing about now is we know the Thermonex system is proven, and it works very, very well. And I do think that our actual costs that you're talking about could be offset even further by your applications for the grants. So I think I'm willing to move this forward. I think there's a good likelihood that you will achieve these grants and reduce our costs even further. And so I think we're in a good place here. And I think overall that this is the right direction for the city to be going in. And I think you're doing a good job. And I think what isn't in the report, I think it will come up later, is the amount of savings that the city has had from the carbon cutters within the city staff, and the amount of costs that we have saved on energy, natural gas, and into our budgets and savings by doing this. And Trevor pays for himself very well in this area. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Score.
Thank you very much. To me, as I said earlier, does this take any generators that you're going to be putting in to achieve this at all?
Generate.
No, I'm just asking.
Your worship, there's no planned generators to support this, no. It uses the existing technologies, which is gas-fired boilers.
So generators will be there, right? There'll be generators there. Even if they're small or big or whatever. Are they or are they not?
No, there's no planned generators.
No plant generators, okay. And now the one thing about it, that we're looking at 23 years down the road. There's new technology coming aboard. They'll buckle your mind 6 months from now, a year from now. And no question about it. And I'll tell you something, that you're tying yourself down to 23 years. As you know, the world revolves, things change. Things change. China put in $275 billion to try and get rid of generators, or to get the pollution down in the next 5 years. Well, you know what? You can get rid of generators just like that, every one of them. There's the technology coming aboard. See? Now, I would suggest that, I wouldn't, if it's a 5-year payback or something like that, somewhere closer than that, I could probably support it. But a 23-year payback, maybe not. It's on paper. That's all it is. There's no guarantee. And do I want to get rid of carbon and get rid of pollution? Of course I do. But I'll tell you, I don't think we should be tying ourselves down, council members, to anything beyond a year or two, because as I said, technology is coming aboard will boggle your mind of what's coming aboard now. I mean, I'm serious about it. And if you want to see some of that technology, I can take you down and show it to you. That'll be ready in about a year or two. They'll buckle your mind. You can produce all the power you need for hydro. You can sell hydro, all the power the hydro needs. No pollution, no generators, no nothing. I mean, and those are the things that you do. Is this company going to be selling to a city like Coquitlam? No, they're not. They're not interested in Coquitlam. The city of Coquitlam is just a small peanut. They'll be producing it for the whole world. But, the fact is that, for us to tie ourselves, and if I didn't know what I know, I wouldn't be so forceful as I am. But I've seen it working, and I've seen that it's there. So, you know what, I cannot support anything like this. It's impossible. I wouldn't never, ever support for our city to pour in millions of dollars into something that's going to be obsolete in maybe 6 months' time, maybe a year's time. 2 years for sure.
Yeah, Councilor Nicholson.
Thanks. We're premising the payback period on an annual saving of $115,000. That appears to be a steady state number, so does it ignore the possibility of changes in the cost of energy over that 23 years, which are, in my mind, likely to be increases and therefore likely to shorten the payback time?
That's correct. We've used a very conservative estimate for that, largely because it's difficult to predict the fluctuations, but we feel that estimate is conservative and is likely to look better over time.
So this is one of those instances where conservative works for me. Thanks.
Gotta get more consistent.
Gee, you even even said the word.
Councillor Nicholson says conservative is good. Councillor O'Neill.
Is a synonym for solid, reliable, predictable, steadfast.
I would open that door.
Thank you. When Councillor Asmussen started speaking about some of the benefits and everything involved, it reminded me that I've forgotten some research I did over the weekend with the help of the Manager of Financial Services. I asked her a question. When I saw that the shortfall we were experiencing, or would experience with this, and it's a decision we're going to have to make, and we hope that that shortfall will be out some grants and things that should cover that shortfall, and we won't have to add it on to our already onerous budget obligations. So I was researching the Climate Action Charter and found out that there is a Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program that the provincial government has, and that calls for a municipality to submit forms every year to try to get a rebate. I thought, I wonder if we're doing this. I bet you we are, but on the slim chance we aren't, and this has fallen through the cracks, we should do this, and we'll probably get $100,000 a year back or something, I was thinking to myself. And lo and behold, the Manager of Financial Services sent me an email saying that the city gets back approximately $120,000 a year in carbon tax rebates from the province. So it'll be about $120,000 again this year. And I was thinking, okay, so where does that money go? Just into general revenue? Or should that perhaps go more specifically into a program like this, I was thinking. And of course it did that, then we'd lose $120,000 somewhere else. But I just wanted to know how that fit in. And I learned that that is actually going, it's treated as a credit against the fuel costs, fleet costs for the city. So all those loose ends are all tied up. So anyway, that was good information to get, and I wanted to share it with everybody in the public that we are, for the commitment that the city made, we are taking advantage of the carbon tax rebate that we're getting. Now, I wasn't planning on talking about this when I put my hand up to ask to share this information, but I think it's quite significant that an elected member of City Council, Councillor Sikora, has gone on public with a prediction that within 6 months to 2 years, that an entirely new energy source can be developed and has been invented and will be on the market that will negate the necessity for us to produce our own power, to buy stuff from BC Hydro, to produce to go ahead with a campus Thermonex system, and that we are that close to this new technology.
Exactly.
Can you share any, beg indulgence to the chair here, and ask can we share any more information about this, which should be front page headline news around the world?
No, it's very simple. I can tell you what.
Hearing no objections.
I can take you for a ride to the place where we have those motors. Okay? Those machines.
There are machines
Frankly,
that produce energy.
you can see them working. You can see them working. Matter of fact, guess what? I showed to some Asian people yesterday. It was maybe 20 of them. Guess what? Every one of them is running around the table looking for a plug-in where it's plugged in. There's no plugs, and no generator.
So it generates energy out of...
That's right.
How does it generate the energy?
Well, you know what? It's going through patent right now, and I'm not going to divulge everything.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what. You want to come and see it, we'll divulge it to you when you sign a certain paper that you'll not be talking about it publicly.
I would love to see it.
But I'll tell you something. Well, I'll tell you, I invited you people a month ago, 2 months ago.
Yes,
It's open. It's open. The invitation is open. The invitation is open to the news media. The invitation is open to anybody who wants to come and see it. And I'll tell you what, it's not a farce. Believe me.
Okay.
It's for real.
Okay, thanks.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Reid.
Okay, this is just a really airy-fairy question. So let's pretend that we're like some of the other countries in the world who really don't give a hoot about carbon and all the other things. They just continue to do what they've been doing for thousands of years and don't really care about the rest of the world. So if we did not have to care about the Climate Action Charter, and we said, okay, it's time, the Evergreen Line's coming, we've got to do something for heating and cooling the buildings, etc., would this be the choice you would make? Is this the best practice, excluding all the green stuff?
Your Worship, I think when you make a choice like this, you need to look at the business case for it, and it needs to stand on its own merit. Ideally, you'd have a shorter payback period than 23 years, and we hope to change that dynamic by also getting a grant. I think, though, that we've also looked at other technology, and the Fortis one was going to be costing us additional amount for the capital costs as well as annually. So we think this is in the right direction, and we think it does have the potential to provide a payback to the city, particularly if we're successful in getting the additional grant toward it.
So the grant, because of the green part of this initiative, is part of the payback for us. So,
Well, and Your Worship, obviously the environmental payback is an important one, but I'm just referring to dollars. There is a dollar payback for this. We've been very conservative on our estimate of the energy costs. Like we've used $115,000 per year, but those will likely be more than that as we go further and further out. So we anticipate the payback will be shortened in that way. There's the ability also to achieve a grant, and there is a business case to support this on its own merits besides the energy efficiency.
I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. I had I'll get you. Okay. One of the, I believe entirely in the conservative estimates, but I also believe in making sure that we produce as well a realistic best case, like rather not best case, but our best estimate of what electricity costs will be in the future and plug that in. And I assume that if we plugged in the kinds of estimates that most utilities produce related to the cost of energy going forward, which are escalating or inflating, then the payback period comes down dramatically. Because obviously we're saving electricity, and that's one of the main things we'll be saving. One of the elements we'll be saving, rather. And the same thing with the cost of gas. Is will the cost of gas be going up or down? And right now, if in fact we're able to start using more of BC's gas resources elsewhere, as the province is intending, that liquefied natural gas will be able to be shipped. That means that there's more than one market for natural gas. There's a market outside of the domestic market, and therefore the price goes up. So have we examined this from the most commonly used assumptions about electricity cost and gas cost, or for that matter from the assumption that, as Councillor Sikora suggests, perhaps gas and electricity cost will go down because there'll be a new source?
Your Worship, my suggestion with that would be that we do provide that as additional information during your budget discussions, is just to confirm from market industry what the projections are on energy costs. I mean, to some degree they're world markets and they're variable, but I think there must be long-term energy predictors in terms of the costing, and we can provide some of that information back to Council as part of the budget discussion if you wish.
I used to be a consultant, and we used to often work with a client who was making a major investment, and they had to make assumptions about the cost of electricity or gas going forward. So I know that the Conference Board of Canada and various other agencies put out those kinds of predictors, and I wouldn't mind having us examine the best estimate of the experts as far as future pricing of energy and plug that into this, keeping in mind that we should also make sure we know what the downside is, and we obviously know what the worst case is, so that we're making a decision based on what an investor would do. And this is promising. I think we have to look at the innovative and the leading edge technologies as a city to make sure that we're doing things in the best way possible for our residents. And I'd be fascinated to listen to actually see a product that generates electricity, like Councillor Sikora says, because that obviously would change the world. But I think we can't close our minds to those. We have to make sure we're open, and in this case, I'm fascinated by this. I don't think we have enough information yet to make a decision. I was one of those who supported Thermonex, the application up in Sports Centre, and I noticed that our Thermonex results were better than those predicted because we went very conservative on the predictions, or at least partly because of that. And I look forward to seeing a wide range of decision-making data that can help us with this one. Dr. Hodge.
I look at it I see two issues. I see the environmental issue, our obligations to the charter we've signed on to, our obligations to society in general to try to cap our carbon use. So I see that is one issue, and I see the financial issue. And at any time that we have a chance to make a capital investment that will pay us back over time and save us money, I think it's a good investment. I would wonder, though, if we would make this investment in another area if the payback was 23 years. That, to me, that's a long payback for this size of capital investment. It may be less if energy prices go up. We're going to look like this was a great decision. But we're looking into a crystal ball to see where energy prices are going to go. I suspect they're going to go up, but we don't know what's on the horizon. We don't know what new technology, new forms of energy may come up. We don't know that if this system will be even relevant 15 years from now, because the technology to help us achieve those savings are going to change, particularly as energy costs rise. And I do believe our numbers are conservative, and I do believe that the cost of energy is going to go up, and I do believe the payback will be less than 23 years. What I can't see in my crystal ball is if energy prices get so high, will other systems come out that are cheaper and that are better? And you just have to look at the early electric cars and things that people have bought in and made huge investments. Now you can get similar results for making less of an investment. So the challenge is, do you jump in now and start to make those savings today? Do you wait a while to see if the cost of the technology comes down and if the technology itself improves, thus giving you better results and greater savings as you move forward? So there's a lot of sort of looking into crystal balls here, or as Councillor O'Neill says, there's a little bit of putting pennies into the well and hoping we're right. I do believe that based on today's numbers and having a system in place, I do believe that the technology will work. The question is this the right amount to spend? Is this the time to do it? Will the paybacks be achieved both environmentally and financially? In the calculations of the payback, I'm assuming that when we do these calculations, we also calculate the cost of money, because whether it's our money or borrowed money, that's capital that's not being used somewhere else. So I would assume that when these calculations are done, that we've calculated the fact that we're tying up $3.5 million that can't be used for something else, or we're borrowing somewhere else because we don't have this money. So is the cost of the money calculated into this?
That's my understanding.
Yes.
It's actually not so the payback that it wasn't presented in the report, but the cost of money would be in that present value.
It's factored in.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, that's great.
Thank you. For both sides.
Yeah, for both sides.
And if I can make some general comments, normally we would like a payback much less than 23 years. But it is a positive payback, not a negative, like the other thing that we were looking at, which we backed away from. And I have received significant briefings from the staff on that, and I certainly believe they did the right thing in terms of backing off the other system, because that actually cost us money and it wasn't a payback at all. This is longer than we would like, but it has other benefits in the environmental area, and we have been very conservative. So we think that payback will be less.
So we get two paybacks. We just don't know how great they're going to be over time.
And the other, in terms of the time, we have to make a decision now, because we have to invest in some technology, because the boilers are at the end of the life. So we have to do some from now.
Okay. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you. I think we're kind of focusing on the savings and how big will they be and what's the payback period. I think it's important to remember that we're not simply achieving a payback, but on a positive cash flow basis, we're meeting or exceeding our greenhouse gas commitment. That's something that we've got to do no matter what it costs us. Thank you.
No, I agree entirely. I think the decision we have to make has to incorporate both, but I want us, as much as possible, to make sure we have a business plan that makes a financial case for these kinds of things. A wish is not a plan, a penny in a well is not a plan. A financial plan, a business plan will lay out with various scenarios that will allow us to make a business decision. At the same time, I completely support the idea that we should be looking at ways of reducing our energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. And this looks like it's potentially one of them that won't actually cost us anything in the long run, but that may produce a payback that's quite significant. Councillor Asmussen.
Well, thank you. Just to remind that, this is for receipt for information. Staff has said they'll provide some more of the information. I guess a couple of things. You can always be waiting on technology and never moving it forward and ahead. And some technologies, while they sound great, never really materialize. I think you take the Ballard fuel cell system for buses and everything, full fusion. Well, there's some applications, but it still has. It was supposed to have been here 10 years ago, and it's still not here. So there's been a lot of supposed the next thing out there that have never ever materialized. And if we sat back and said we're going to always wait, but we've never improved our computers or updated anything, you have to make the best information, the best decision that time that you have. And I think staff has done a good job on weighing the options we have today with the need of replacing equipment now and how we can benefit today. And also on the thing of, I like the fact that staff basically gave us the most conservative, worst payback that we would have at 23 years. That's basically what they've done. But I would not want them to be trying to predict what the fuel costs. I would go back years ago when we had the natural gas marketers coming around. We did a thing on that from Mayor Stewart's motion to stop that from going around. And everybody's prediction of gas prices, natural gas prices, are going to fire through the roof. Well, all those people that signed those 5-year contracts or whatever are stuck paying exorbitantly higher rates than what gas came down. So it's such a volatile thing. I think the most sensible thing is what staff did is take the most conservative thing and give the council the longest payout. And if it does go up, which we think it will, but I think council needs to know that the most conservative payback would be this, because we truly, as we've seen in the energy market over the last number of years, that we can predict what the prices are going to be. So for staff to come up with a graph, and then people would criticize us, the staff, that you were too rosy of predictions. So I like the report. It's a report for information, and I heard staff that they will come back with some more information for us when we make this decision at budget. Thank you.
Yep. And one of the realities is Thermonex isn't leading edge. Really, it's one that we've proven works well in our own buildings. It's proven well across the region, but in one of our own buildings, it really has worked. So it's worth looking at. Okay, the motion is to receive. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Good to see electricity on the table.
Item 4 is report of Manager Information and Communications Technology regarding the ICT Update 2013. We have introductory comments by our Deputy City Manager and a presentation by our Manager of Information and Communication Technology.
Move receipt.
Second.
Moved by May, second by Neil. C.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, ICT had a review conducted earlier this year, and one of the recommendations flowing from that review was that ICT would give annual updates to council on the major initiatives that they're working on. This is the first such report. The reason that we're giving it at this time of year is because we have budget deliberations that are coming up in November, and we thought it would be timely to give the update in advance of the budget. Rick Adams, our Manager of Information and Communications Technology, is here today and has a PowerPoint presentation to run through some of the major programs that they're working on at this time. And with that, I'll turn things over to Rick, and then there'll be an opportunity for council to ask questions.
Mr. Adams.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The mission of Information Communications Technology is to provide innovative information and communications technology and exceptional service to our community of customers. Our role is to increase workforce productivity, improve customer service, and provide management information through the automation of our corporate business processes. And this is very much a partnership between ICT and our internal customers. Our internal customers, of course, are responsible for the various business processes here at the city, and our role is to support them in their information and communication technology needs and to support those technologies on an ongoing basis. Looking at ICT in a nutshell, there are really 4 significant layers to our environment. The bottom layer, which is really the foundation for all of our information and communication systems, includes our data centers, our cable plant, and our telecommunications network. Supporting all of our business applications is our database layer, where all of our information resides. On top of that, we have all of our business applications, and on top of that, we have our end-user computing and access devices. Obviously, failure at the bottom end of the stack affects everything in the organization, whereas a failure at the top end might affect 1 or 2 people. So that, to some degree, determines our priorities. Some of our major accomplishments this year, as John mentioned, the ICT review process was completed earlier in the year, a fairly significant undertaking on our part. Out of that came 2 recommendations, interdepartmental ICT working group, which has now met and reviewed all of our work plan priorities and helped prioritize them moving forward, and this council update. Another major project for this year was the upgrade to Office 2010 and Windows 7 across the board. This was something that we had not upgraded for about 10 years. The positive thing about keeping the desktop environment stable for that period of time is our end users were very proficient at using it. We try to minimize change in the organization as much as possible, but obviously eventually you have to bite the bullet and move forward. So that particular project went very well. We had about a 2-month peak in our help desk calls during the rollout, and everything has dropped back down to normal levels now in terms of support calls. So it seems like our organization has adapted very well to the change. Our Maximo IT service desk was also a major accomplishment for our department. That's automating our help desk processes in ICT. So it's kind of a bit of an eat-your-own-dog food kind of a project where we inflict process change on the rest of the organization. It's fair that we inflict it on ourselves as well. But the IT service desk allows people with online access to help desk services now, and also gives us the ability to track the kinds of incidents that we're responding to so that we can improve our services over time. Our web permits application has received quite a few very positive comments from people booking building and plumbing inspections and tracking those online. Our electronic bid submission process as well for receiving tender applications or proponent proposals for tenders has been very successful, and in fact has attracted a lot of recognition from other municipalities who are looking at copying what we've done here in Coquitlam in that regard. And our first mobile application was our curbside collection application, and I understand as well that we've had a lot of very positive feedback from people using that. They can integrate that on their smartphone with their personal schedule, get reminders of pickup days and all of those sorts of really good things. And a couple of major upgrades this year. As I mentioned, our desktop computer upgrade, something that we only do every 5 years, was very significant. And the fact that we were doing it while there were about 200 staff moves, office moves going on in the organization, complicated things, but we got it all done quite successfully. And we also had to upgrade our document management system in line with the Office 2010 upgrade this year, which was pretty significant for us. Going forward into next year, the electronic plan submission and review project is one that I know Council has got its eyes on moving forward in the future. It's a very significant project. We're still at the scoping stage, pre-design stage for this. Hope that we will have a project charter developed by about the end of the year or early next year, and the project charter will define moving forward in terms of detailed design and software acquisition and implementation and those sorts of things. Accounts payable automation is another very significant project for us in 2014. This is going to automate our invoice processing throughout the organization so that all the various people that order things through the city will be able to receive online and approve invoices online without having to move all that paper around. Mobile Maximo is going to take our maintenance management system into the field so that people won't have to work off of printed schedules anymore. They'll be able to access their schedules out in the field and also update information back into Maximo out in the field. And wireless facilities deployment is something that we're working on as a new revenue initiative for council. We've had a lot of demands from cellular companies and from companies like Shaw to deploy more wireless access in the city. And so we will be bringing forward some reports to council in that regard in the near future. And every year we always have a lot of upgrades and replacements. 2014 is no exception. In fact, replacing our enterprise servers is one of the largest upgrades and replacement projects that we do every 5 years. Security appliances is another very big one. PeopleSoft, Human Resources Payroll upgrade is huge. In fact, all of those projects are pretty large for us in 2014. And that's it in a nutshell, and open for questions.
Okay. Starting with Brett, May, Nicholas, and
Okay.
Councillor Rasmussen.
Thank you for the report. I was one of the persons that pushed for a review of ICT, and I'm glad that that was done, and I'm glad that this report is here. My push for that was that I think from my perspective on council, and most I think else aren't great understanders of IT and didn't understand IT.
Oh, speak for yourself.
I know you're the technology wizard, May, but the rest of us aren't quite up to you yet.
We'll Skype about it afterwards.
Yes, right. But what I have felt very helpful in this report is a understanding of what ITC does, the effect on the organization that you do, and the moving forward that you do. So this is a great help, and this review and an annual review will keep us better understanding how you were just not a bunch of techies sitting in a room playing some games where that you're doing a lot of accomplishments. But I'm just saying, when you don't understand IT and when we don't understand all that you do to support this operation, and without your support in today's electronics world, we would be in a lot of difficulty. So I like the Maximo IT service desk that you guys put in. I've used it, and I like the fact that you can track and understand and better refine those problem areas. So I think that's electronic bid submissions I like. I haven't got the relocate mobile app up on mine yet, but it will be. I guess I'm still a little disappointed that I've been pushing Mr. McIntyre, and I think for yourself, for the electronic plan submissions. It's something for the last couple of years. Sounds like it'd be about at least another year out at least. But it's something I think that will help our city meet some performance goals and improve the processing times that we've all struggled with. And so I would hope that that could be done quicker. So that's just my one hope there. And my other issue is, so over 90% of the ICT plan is committed to sustaining existing assets. I guess I've seen what you're stood for next year, but I'd also like to see in the future, where do you see some bigger future needs moving out in the future, not as just this year, but moving out, and the financial plans to go with that. And what we all may need is, a lot of times take Maximo, there may be some systems that we need to look at and be aware of that are larger capital items that will need to be replaced, or there's new ones out there that will maybe a large cost for the licensing and everything to use them. But here's the benefit in cost, but also in improved performance for the city and its users of the city. So that's the one area that I would like to see expanded on future reports. Okay? That's everything. Good report. Thank you very much.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you. 2 points. The first one, accounts payable automation. Being on finance at Metro for a while, it's come to my attention that oversight in the accounts payable department, I look at Sheena, is incredibly important because things change so much in the field and invoices come out before work has changed, and et cetera. So I'm assuming that in your systems that you're developing, there will be significant oversight, that something just doesn't come in and go out.
This won't change anything that we do from a procedural point of view. It'll mean that the paperwork doesn't go around all the desks. It gets scanned, and we do it all electronically
So
on the
you'll-
screen. The actual oversight from each person and the work that we do will be exactly the same.
Thank you.
We just
So-
do it faster and quicker.
Thank you. And the next one is electronic plan submission. And I think this is great for some of the developers, but for some of, you say, and other applicants. So some of the folks that are coming in, I assume that you mean not just new construction, but you could mean renovations and things like that as well? It's a really costly system, so I assume you're going to try and put everything into it. So I guess we have to remember that not everyone is computer savvy. And I think that we're going to need some extensive training at the front counter for folks because, you know, sending something in and, oh, gee, that's not what I meant, comes up a lot. So all I'm concerned about here, again, is oversight, but more people skills that can go along with this system because I think that's going to be really important. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Nicholson.
Thank you. Near the end of the report, Rick talks about how the capital needs are met and discusses the three reserves, and that's, I asked him to give us this description of what had come and gone through those reserves. And I have a question and a comment. The first one is under telephone and telecom. We talked about the reserve at $300,000 a year was created in 2004 through operating cost savings realized when we installed the citywide fiber, VoIP telephone network, reducing the telephone and network service costs. I had an idea, and I wasn't on council in 2004, but I thought that I had heard that a substantial part of the savings achieved there were devoted to the creation of the QNet optic network and the installation of a lot of fiber over beyond the specific needs for traffic signals or city communication.
Through the chair, no, none of the savings was ever put towards QNet. QNet took out a line of credit for $5 million additional dollars, and we don't really count those savings as on our books at all.
Okay. And then the second one is really more of an observation. So I'm looking at the three individual reserves, the amounts that have gone in on an annual basis and the amounts that have been spent on an annual basis. Looking also at the fact that we now are, for personal computers, on a 5-year replacement cycle. And there isn't quite enough here for me to do the analysis, and it's not a decision or a recommendation that I'd want to reach today. But I want to say that when we get into the deeper budget discussions in a fairly short length of time, I'm going to want to look very carefully at being certain that those provisions, amounts going into those reserves on an annual basis are adequate, but they're not overly generous at all. In other words, that they, over a 5-year term, will simply meet our needs and not build any excesses. And if there are present, I don't like the word excesses, funds that might be available to be used elsewhere, that we recognize those and make the appropriate decisions as we go into the budget discussions. Come out of the budget discussions this year. So I don't need an answer to that. It's something to be prepared to talk about. Thank you.
Councilor Spark.
Thank you. Couple things. Number one, the invoices are coming out now through computerized and up to date.
The invoices we receive on paper now, and then they're sent through inter-office mail for department approval from the ordering department, and then back into finance for processing.
So with all the system that you've put in, it certainly must be saving staff time, staff hours.
I expect that there will be staff time savings throughout the organization, and particularly there will be some savings in finance, but I'm not too sure exactly what those are. Shannon?
I can answer that. It's going to save a little bit of effort all over the place because what happens is now paper goes around and it has to be transferred back and forth, which takes a little bit of time. Every now and again an invoice gets lost on somebody's desk or they're away and those kind of things, so we can be more efficient. the savings will be spread kind of all over the organization, a little tiny bit at a time, and we kind of need those kinds of savings to be able to keep up with the growth. We haven't added an accounts payable person in probably 10 years, and of course our growth grows every year, so we need to do these kinds of things just to be able to keep up on day-to-day work.
Okay, so really there's no huge savings as far as employees are concerned on payroll.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Richard?
Councillor Rasmussen.
Just, it twigged me once again. I guess refinement on Councillor Nicholson's question is in the report that, however, your report, it should be noted that over 90% of ITC's capital plan is committed to only sustaining existing assets without growing them. So we don't have a lot of budget room for the growth in new assets to expand. And I guess I also want to get a better decision on and refinement on the question about the general revenue funding of 615. Well, you show from 211, that amount hasn't changed in your report since 2001. Is that realistic moving forward? Considering your statement, over 90% is for existing assets. So I'd like some more information when it comes to the budget on those numbers and the reality of what I asked again, what are the future needs expanding and moving forward? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's a great indication of where we're at, and I actually love some of the apps that we can now look at it. Recollect is a pretty cool one. Get smartphones to start working for us instead of against us. Thank you. Thank you. The motion is to receive. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Now we can move into the other half of it.
It's going to be fun.
Okay.
Well, it'll be fun. I got some questions on that one. Do you have any? Oh, yeah, the OPIs.
Has Bonita left already?
She's outside.
So we do have a number of other business items.
I'll start with actually the last Friday of October is normally the launch of the poppy campaign. So I dipped into my wallet and bought all council members their first poppy. They will lose it, of course, and they will have to buy the next one. So
I'm spending money at the marketplace IGA.
there you go.
You lost it already?
No, I didn't plan to wear it until it became November.
Yes. Some people only wear it when it's
Yeah,
November. It
Sort of
actually launches the last Friday of October by protocol, but it's up to everyone.
Last Friday of
October, and that's
That
protocol.
was last Friday.
And that was last Friday.
I didn't realize.
But there is no actual protocol because you can't wear it all year rather than anybody. Okay. Madam Clerk.
Moving on to other business items. First one was from Councillor Reid regarding letters.
Yes, Thanksgiving is past, but there's quite a few things that I'd like to send some letters on, and two specifically, and one we all got a letter from Mountain View School, and about Springbank Development, and Springbank Development Corp, and I would like you, and hopefully on behalf of all of us at Council, just to send a letter, not detailing all the things that they're doing, but thanking them very much for their contributions, that the city recognizes that they are the kind of developers we would like to have in our city.
Outstanding. With these kinds of things, we don't require a motion, but
I'd just like to suggest this, and he keeps going like this.
On this one, I personally sent the letter to them already, and they were going to appreciate it.
are you done with that?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
that's one item.
Okay, good. We'll get that one going.
And the second letter is to Mr. Kasha Harani from Westfield. I'd like just to acknowledge how much fun and appreciation we have for his donation of the fountain. In that, we have already had several quite auspicious occasions that it's been lit up by our staff in purple and gold for the childhood cancer and many other things. And I think it would be just nice because we haven't acknowledged anything in the last year or so, and I think it would be nice to tell him that.
It's a good idea. We'll send a letter to Mr. Koshkoshak.
And my third thing and last thing was,
Just a second on that item too.
No, on that one, Mr. Kay and Westfield are extremely generous in a lot of different areas in the
They
city.
are.
And within the last year, they set up a scholarship fund through the Coquitlam Foundation with a cabbie. Very generous there as well.
$65,000 or
Yeah,
$60,000.
it's almost open-ended depending on how many kids want to apply. It's not scholarship, it's a bursary for cabbie graduates, so most appreciated. So I don't know if you want to add that in. It's all part of community building.
Oh, there's
It's not direct contribution to the city, but certainly to the community generally.
typically there's room in the penultimate paragraph for listing a bunch of things.
Excellent.
I just thought it was interesting that I would never have thought that community groups would come forward like the Toronto Tower and all these things, and now we're lighting little things around our city, and I think that's sort of a nice recognition.
Yeah.
And last, does anybody have this civics thing? I thought I put it in here and I didn't. It's the LMLGA with City of Vancouver is doing some kind of a special event, and unfortunately it's $185 for each counselor to go. And it's coming up fairly soon.
December 4th.
Pardon?
December 4th.
December 4th, so maybe we could just, everybody could take a look at it and see if we could get at least one person to go and tell the rest of us, because it's a lot of money for all of us to go, I think. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Councillor O'Neill,
Yeah, oh, thank
fire
you.
truck livery.
Yeah, and I was at City Hall a couple of weeks ago for an event.
Now with fire hall.
At the fire hall. And I happened to see one of our fire trucks go by, and it was all pink. At least each side, left and right side, was pink. And I asked what that was about, and I was told that it had been, livery is the decoration, decals and things like that. And I'd asked what that was about, and I was quite heartened to hear that it had been decorated like that, in conjunction with Run for the Cure, connected with fighting breast cancer. And if anybody watches TV sports these days, certainly knows that the football teams have outfitted themselves with pink, and it's very admirable. But then I learned, and this is why I wanted to raise it here, that there was an intent. This is a fire truck that I learned, it's not on the front line, but it's an active sort of reserve. It fills in at various fire halls, and so it's on the road a lot. And I learned that the fire department intended to keep this truck with the pink sides indefinitely, at least for another half a year or so. I took a bit of a breath and started thinking about the implications of that. And I had a couple of concerns about that. And one of the concerns is strictly health and safety and recognition of fire trucks. Our fire trucks are all uniform color, all uniform livery, and indeed our firefighters and their captains all dress in uniforms. And one of the main reasons this is, historically, is that they are already recognizable immediately. There's no concern, there's no confusion when a firefighter or a fire truck gets onto the scene. People know what that is right away, and they can respond appropriately. And I thought that having one of our fire trucks as pink or any color, if it was any color other than the red that we've been using, and I know that, by the way, tangent here, that other fire departments have adopted different colored fire trucks. So over the years, there's been these hot yellow ones that we used to see, fluorescent ones, and with different shades of red. But the point is the uniformity of the fire truck is the same reason that police officers wear uniforms, that our bylaw enforcement officers wear uniforms. They're instantly recognizable, and that sends a very strong message. Trucks the same way. And I thought this was a potential to add some confusion in a very important area of our city services, in a highly visible area of city services. The second one is more of on principle about the using of city property to in a long-term way to declare a support for a particular program, however wonderful that program might be. In this instance, to fight breast cancer, apparently future uses perhaps can be used to fight bullying and things like that. And I was thinking about that and thinking, well, this city has a very firm policy and that we all agree with and haven't wanted to tamper with about not passing proclamations. This is anti this day, this is pro this day, this is this day, because we don't want to start generating discussions and debates that can often be quite divisive and off the main track of us all working, keeping to our knitting here and doing the business of the city. And I thought that this, having an ongoing, one of our fire trucks being ongoing and being outfitted in it's understand it's not paint, it's a sort of shrink wrap type thing that can't be peeled off. It's actually, that sort of starts opening the door to messages. This is a societal benefit messages, but city equipment being used as a platform, an ongoing platform to promote various messages and things like this. And I thought, well, that's actually a bit of an end run around council policy. Those are my thoughts on this. Again, it's we don't see the RCMP outfitting their cars in pink or red or yellow, whatever the issue of the day is. We don't see the RCMP or the police or bylaw enforcement officers deciding, or that particular department deciding for a week or for a month to, well, let's all wear yellow uniforms, or let's all wear purple uniforms, or let's all wear these colors, because we happen to, support this particular cause. And I'm not saying anything against the cause and the outpouring of charity and the support. That's all very good stuff. I'm just thinking on a little bit broader issues here about the precedent that it sets, and also about public safety and health as well. So those are my points of my concern. I see the fire chief is here. If you'd like to comment, you can, but not to me to ask him to. But
so you may want to. Actually, you may want to come up and. I note that he's wearing a poppy in support of a cause. Yes. Anything or?
Yes, through the chair. I really welcome the concern, actually, Councillor O'Neill. It is a public outreach tool. It's not for any one particular program. We rolled it out actually for the Welcome to Coquitlam event, and I was very surprised I didn't get any comments right away for it. I was hoping that I would, and it kind of went quietly. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So it kind of went quiet for that. Then it rolled out to the Run for the Cure as well. I've got many events that I feel it will be worthwhile as a public outreach tool. As most of you are aware, there's more to fire service than just suppression activities. We have fire prevention and we have a public education department, and it's primarily to be used in those endeavors for that sort of work. There's many cultures in our society where firefighters are not to be trusted. Middle Eastern cultures and some of the Asian cultures, they do not trust uniforms, and I want to use it as a public education tool at schools during our programs there, so that the children get educated that firefighters are to be trusted. I've got 32 years in the fire service, or completed 32 years beginning this week. Start my 33rd year. I've seen some interesting stuff over those years, but some of the stuff that haunts me is searching for children and having them hide from you. And that's not very pleasant, especially if the outcomes aren't what you expect. So I don't want that to happen on my watch in Coquitlam. And the kids of Coquitlam are going to know that firefighters are to be trusted. And if they're searching for you, you can call out to them. So, last week or a month ago, Coquitlam was very proud to receive the Open for Business. And as far as I'm concerned, this fire service is open for business as well. And I want to send a clear message to the community and start conversations. And I'm glad that Councillor O'Neill brought this up, because that pink fire truck starts a lot of conversations. And for the and it reaches and transcends all genders, ages. We had it at our Fire Prevention Week open house. We had over 100 families come out, and that pink fire truck was a big hit with the kids and the parents as well. There's many in this diverse community we have that they ask questions. Why is it pink? What's it for? Most of them assumed it was for breast cancer or something similar. Far be it, it's more than that. It's to be used at many functions that this community has. I could have taken out a full-page ad in the newspaper, Tri-City Now, and whatever that would cost me, and I might reach one small segment of the population that reads that. That pink fire truck starts conversations with kids. It doesn't need a language to be spoken in or read. It completes its duties. Of all the fine apparatus that the taxpayers have given this fire service here, I would suggest to you today that, in my mind, that's the most important piece of equipment I have in my arsenal right now. Because firefighters, for us to do our work, we need the trust of the public, and we have to stay modern with the times. And it's not about us coming out of our fire halls, putting out a fire or any myriad of calls that we answer, and then rolling back to our fire halls and bringing up the drawbridge and not being in touch with our community. It's very important that we're seen to be in touch with the community and meeting their needs, and that's how we build trust, and without that we can't do our job. So I'm not sure I've answered all the questions here, but I wanted to put it in perspective. It's not about any one cause, it's about many causes.
Were you in touch with our communications department to liaise with them about coordinating communications plans and outreach plans with city priorities?
Not directly when I first envisioned and rolled it out. It was something we talked about as a management team in the fire service in Coquitlam. That will happen though as we roll out to support civic initiatives, things like that. And I would imagine now with that particular apparatus at our disposal, and that's for the whole city's disposal, it can be called upon to do a myriad of things, and we'll coordinate that. But
so was there any discussion with anyone outside of the fire department, the city manager, let's say, or the deputy city manager, before this was rolled out?
No.
What was the budget for this?
It was $1,700 with taxes in, and $250 of that is for future removal of the shrink wrap.
And where did that wasn't a line item in last year's budget. Where did that money come from?
I decided to take it out of our public education budget. We have a budget for advertising and for the furthering of public education within our fire prevention division. So I felt that was a very good need. There was enough in there to support it. I felt it was a good need, as I stated before. I can't think of a better way of getting the message across to kids and during our school and our public outreach programs there. So,
do you have any plans to decorate any other fire trucks with any other colors or perhaps any other motifs?
Not at this time. The motifs, there are no motifs on it except Coquitlam Fire Rescue. We didn't. I'm not here to be running around a billboard or.
So if this is the single most important piece of equipment that you now have, because it opens the door to better public communication stuff, why would you stop here then? Why would you stop at that one single piece of equipment? Why not have more decorations on all sorts of different trucks and generate even more conversation?
I think it's important to have its uniqueness. If I painted everything or shrink wrapped everything pink, it would lose a certain amount of its conversation value. I think it is unique in that it's pink. I think that's why. I mean, we have. For years, our branding is fire rescue or emergency fire rescue on trucks, whether it's here in Coquitlam or Vancouver or Port Moody, Poco. That's been our branding for years in the fire service. I think this takes it a step further as far as our public outreach and our public education and prevention efforts. It creates a unique apparatus that starts conversations. And that's really what it's about, starting conversations.
You started one here.
We did. Thank you.
You have. there's an individual that we focus some of it on. Is that public?
No.
I'm not sure how public or unpublic that is.
I know she's been somewhat public,
Yeah.
but I don't know whether
No,
that's right. I'm just.
Yeah, and that wasn't the, I mean,
I recognize
absolutely,
that.
but-
I recognize
yeah,
that. Okay. Because this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so that's an element of this. I like the. And thank you very much for raising it, but I like the fire truck. I think it makes a statement. It does make a statement about the values that our fire crews have for all forms of human life, and in the same way that I like when the RCMP ride for Cops for Cancer don something else, or else, for that matter, don a water gun and play with kids in a park. I think it doesn't necessarily take away from the role that they play, but rather I think it expands that role. I think we do have to be sensitive to the idea that the fire trucks be as visible and recognizable as you're driving down the road, but there aren't many vehicles that look like a fire truck. And so I don't know that pink is a good disguise. If you were thinking of disguising a fire truck, I don't know that painting it pink would work. I think you might have to do something else. Okay, I've got Neil, May, Craig. So Craig.
Okay, moving on.
Oh, no, wait.
I've got giving you the first three. Neil?
Thanks. This will be much quicker than it was going to be because there were two things I was going to talk about. The first one was a lot of different things I was going to say, and none of them apply anymore because of the good and broad explanation you gave me of the purpose of the whole thing. So I would sort of finish that piece by confirming my appreciation that we have leaders in our departments who make decisions, know what the basis of them is, and go forward with them, and then are prepared to come here and answer them. And I'm quite happy to have it carry on like that. And the other thing I was going to comment on was that we may have a policy that says we don't take positions on things, but we're all wearing poppies. And so sometimes we do. This probably is one of those times. But Your Worship.
I actually didn't have you vote because of the second motion.
I know.
May.
Thank you. One of the reasons we stopped doing proclamations is there became so many of them, you couldn't say, oh, this day, October 1st or November 1st is going to be, we proclaim it to be whatever day, because then it could be something that was entirely different on that day. You might have 3 or 4 proclamations for the same day, and it just got to be a little unwieldy. I love the pink truck, and I definitely support it. It's fire, but it's also rescue. And I can't tell you how long before you got here, the chiefs before you, both of the last two, since we got the animal shelter, all the animals we've rescued. And I mean, I'd get pictures of fish and goldfish that you'd rescued in Ziploc bags, and pictures of ferrets and animals and all the stuff, and the birds that we've had. And I mean, people don't understand what the rescue part of fire and rescue is, and so I really value that. And in a case like this, I don't see that there's a necessity for you to come forward. You're the fire department. You represent the city, and to put something pink, I mean, you know, if I put something pink on my car, they're not going to think it's a fire truck. So, I mean, you put something pink on a fire truck, they're not going to think it's a car. So to me, it's just, I mean, it's very obvious what it is. And I think it shows that you care. And I agree with all the things you said about creating conversation. And I think it's a great thing. So it's a community builder, and that's what we're here for. And the rescue part is just as important as the fire part. Thank you. And thank you for your comments.
Craig.
You know, I think I've been hanging around fire halls as long as you have, Chief, in a different capacity, and you know, and I've seen a real change in our fire departments over the years, and you know, just as a profession, that the days of the big macho guy and you know that didn't care about anything but getting that water on that flame has really changed, and And, my son Dawson, who you met, wants to be a firefighter. He's really seriously considering a career in firefighting. And so I took him to the open house that you had at the hall a couple of weeks back, and the first thing he spotted was, he said, "Dad, there's a pink fire truck," and I hadn't seen it. And so Dawson took me over, and I appreciate you took the time to explain to Dawson why the truck was pink. And it was interesting, and that when on the way home, the discussion wasn't about trucks and hoses. It was social issues. We were talking about breast cancer and what the men and women of the fire department were doing to bring awareness. And so you absolutely, at least with my son, accomplished what you set out to do. And I want to publicly thank you for that. And I think that the education budget is the correct place to take that money. I had similar concerns and questions that the council and Neil raised. And if you feel that you're making a difference in bringing education to the kids, not just on social issues, but creating a different look and putting a new face to the fire department, I think that's beneficial. And I think you certainly have succeeded in doing that. You succeeded in doing that today by engaging us in this conversation. There's some people at home watching this as well. So that this discussion will continue. And there will be discussion if this is the appropriate way to do it or not, and others will have different views on it. But the whole point is we're having that discussion. And I think you've set out, and sometimes to set out to have a discussion creates thinking outside of the box to create that discussion. And so, I think you succeed in that. I recognize that, as you said at the time, that this is a service-ready vehicle. It's not one of our frontline operation pieces of apparatus, but that in an event of an emergency where we need every piece that we have in the department out there, that it will be there. And I don't think that if this truck is putting wet stuff on the red stuff, that anybody's going to complain that it's pink. If we need it, it's ready. But in the meantime, it's serving another purpose in our community, and that's on the education side. And I think that you certainly succeeded. And I want to thank you and the men of the department, because I know that there's others that have all bought into this, and I think that's important. So thank you.
Men and women.
Yep.
Okay, I'll go to the other guy in the pink shirt, Lou.
Thank you very much. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. I'll tell you, our fire department has gone a long ways from the 70s that I can remember, early 70s. When the trucks went to the fire hall and broke down, they couldn't pump water when they got there, you name it. There was many, many problems. And I can tell you something, we built the fire hall department to what it is today, starting in 1983 when I became the mayor. We built 3 new fire halls within 5 years, and brought on a lot of new equipment, a lot of new force and everything else. Keep up the good work. The one thing about it, that if you can use my pink shirt or my tie to improve that fire truck or whatever it is, please do. I can give it to you, okay? But to the police chief, how many of our cars that are not white? Quite a few, aren't they? Although they may be ghost cars and everything else, but there's probably 10% of cars that you think, are they, you're driving down the street, is there a police car? Maybe not.
Not even counting the ones that are really dirty.
So there's a lot of police cars that are not all the same color for many reasons, So this one, I can't argue. I think it's a good move. It was a wise move. And whoever thought of it is a brilliant move. Thank you very much. I support it. But as I said, if you can use my tie and my shirt to help it along, I'd be willing to donate it. Okay, thank you.
It is a coincidence. Brent.
Well, thank you, Chief, for your passion and the reasoning behind this, and I understand a lot better the reason behind it, and I support you in those reasons behind it. I think our fire department is one of the most progressive fire departments in adapting to the new world and change, and I think colors 20, 30 years ago in a fire department would not be going over very well at all. You can relate to that question. So, and I think the passion that's behind this and the education part of it is understandable, but I do think that when you're doing something like this and you're doing this, I think the communication would have been better for council just to be aware, saying this is what we're doing. I'm not want to say that to you, this just is a heads up saying, if you get questions on a pink fire truck driving around the city, this is why, and it's out there, this is why we're doing it. because now I have a better understanding. When Councillor O'Neill first raised this, I went, oh yeah, okay, maybe there's what's going on here. And as you said before, this is also an in-service vehicle that will go to fires when needed, and it will come up because it's red on the front, it's not pink on the front, so people will still see it driving through. So, and it has no branding; it's just pink. So I have a greater appreciation for the understanding, the need, and what you do, and not realizing, those cultural difficulties that you and the fire department have. And that's one thing that you shared with us today that I don't think we know about on a regular basis, the difficulties that you face in certain areas of trust. I didn't realize that. We always think, in our culture here, that the fire department, firemen are one of the most trusted people coming to, even if that bothers the police department, but it is just from our cultural aspect here. We don't understand that at the department. So I thank you for sharing that. I thank you for bringing it up. And once again, I'm proud of our department and their progressiveness in all aspects moving forward. So thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your next other business item relates to Ranch Park from Councillor Sikora.
What, not con-
Or Glen Park or Mayor.
Yeah, Glen Park. Yeah, Glen Park. I'm really, really concerned what's happening in there is that the parking lot is gone from there.
On Pipeline, Joe.
Pardon?
On Pipeline.
On Pipeline, yeah. The parking lot
There's
is...
two parking lots.
Yeah.
The Glen Park.
There's two Glen Park parking lots. There's
The Glen Park just out here, up the street.
no, I know.
But on Westwood or
In Glen Park, there's two parking lots.
On Pipeline.
Yeah.
Okay, the parking lot is gone. Now, we built a doggy park in there, and for what reason? People can bring their dogs in their cars, park in there, and go. And I did talk to the acting general manager of Parks and Recreation. We had a good discussion about it, and he knows about it, so he's aware of it. But the fact is that, to have, and what do I see? Workmen working there for about 2 or 3 weeks. All kinds of topsoil, all kinds of lumber, all kinds of everything else, all kinds of cement. Guess what? They're planting trees. We cut 200 trees down, we're now planting trees in there. And the parking lot is gone. Now, you know what? In our town center parking lot, a park without a parking lot that we took away, unless the parking lot is going somewhere else. And if it is, why would we take a beautiful parking lot, well-built parking lot, certainly the pavement wasn't cracked or anything else, and move it somewhere else and duplicate spending money? I mean, those are the things that really bother me, I'll tell you to no end, is that here's a park, the park had disappeared, and I spoke to it when we first started talking about doing something to Glen Park in phase 1. I talked about it, and I voted against it because of the parking lot and because there's no washrooms in there. From what we've done in there, we could have built some beautiful washrooms and a few other, maybe even a clubhouse. Drive down there, take a look at it. And see for yourself. It's disgusting what's happened in there.
Councillor Sikora, it's the capital plan that you voted on.
Oh, no, I didn't.
It includes...
Oh, no, I didn't. Don't say I voted on it.
Okay, sorry. Okay, but anyway, council passed it. And,
I know, that's exactly why I'm bringing it here. The council passed something here, and I don't know whether they're aware that they knocked out the parking lot with what they did.
Well, it was in the plan. But, okay, the parking lot that they knocked out, though, was the old one, the one that used to be the pool parking lot for Glen Pool.
Yeah.
Where Glen Pool got taken down 25 years ago, the parking lot is 60 years old.
But, yeah, so what's wrong with that? It's 100 years old. Who cares? The parking lot is a parking lot. We need a parking lot in Coquitlam Center. We need parking lot in each park.
There is one. We just built a new parking lot a couple of years back.
On Westwood.
On Westwood.
Yeah, but
in concert with the school district.
So that's exactly what I'm saying. What we did is taking a good parking lot that was there and duplicated somewhere else. That's spending taxpayer money wisely? I don't think so. I don't think so.
It was in tough condition, but
yes,
Mr. Adelaide.
Yes, through the chair, the Glen Park project was approved by council back from 2011, 2012. The budget did include, and it was noted clearly in the original reports that it was about $100,000 of the original site preparation, which included the removal of an existing parking area off of Pipeline Road, which is the one area we're talking about now. There's about 30 plus stalls off of Westwood, which is the parking area for this park. But one of the key elements of the design was the
the entrance plaza off of Pipeline Road. It was a very important part of that design, which did include social gathering place, and there's some linkages to the playground, et cetera, et cetera. And that's supposed to be the entrance to the essentially the pedestrian entrance to the park. So it was noted clearly in the original approvals, and the original report, and the original design for the park, that part of that was the removal of the parking lot off of Pipeline Road as part of the initial design of
And
this
that's
phase.
exactly what I'm saying. I spoke against it to begin with, and I voted against it for the phase 1 to be going in, and these phases that are going in. The fact is that, you know what, you do not take a parking lot, especially when there's going to be 3,750 units right across the street. And where I'm living, there's all kinds of high-rise apartments, all kinds of people there, and they're going to go to some other parking lot because you ripped up a good parking lot that was there, workable. There's a lot of people parking there, walking the park, taking their dogs to the doggy park, and lo and behold, all of a sudden, out sprouts some trees. You know, and we cut down 200 trees in that park. Now we're planting them.
Well, and I may want, and it might be wrong to blindside them. I know that the police have received a large number of complaints about the kinds of activities that were taking place both in the park but also in that particular parking lot. I know the parking lot was in very rough condition and it had been completely rebuilt if we'd opted to put parking for the apartment building across the street in the park. So I think council was generally supportive. Well, in fact, I didn't hear any comments at the time about the loss of that parking lot, or rather the conversion of that parking lot into a plaza. But are there any comments from council? Councilor?
So we took the one out on Pipeline, but we built a bigger one off Westwood.
Westwood, correct.
That's where I went today to look.
Yes, and that's the main parking area for Glen Park.
And how many spots are there?
It's 33, 34. It's in the 30s.
And how many did we take off?
I believe it was
Pipeline?
around 10 that was taken out on the lower part, but it wasn't in great condition either. I note Mayor Stewart's comments.
So we lost 10 and we gained 30.
No, it was bigger than.
There was about 30 odd parking spots.
Well, it wasn't
in
30,
Westwood.
but it was more than 10.
Yeah, more than 10.
I'm sure it wasn't 30. The original approval did show that plaza, and a number of plans that came forward through council, including the last one for funding on both phase 1 and phase 2, and it was shown as the area for a future entry plaza for pedestrians. It did include some additional tree planting. There's some hard surfaces in there. There's connections to the rest of the park, and that's the area that's under construction.
Remember.
So, well, I was concerned because Councillor Sikora called me and I went by Westwood thinking you were taking that out, which is next to the doggy park, and that was not going to be a happy conversation. And we replaced what came off Pipeline onto Westwood. So they replaced from Pipeline onto Westwood. Well, that's what they did. So, okay.
So what we asked for some is duplication of parking lots. Instead of repaving the old one, that would have cost us maybe 10 cents on a dollar compared to what we did. No, we just blew them. You know what? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Wasteful spending. That's exactly why I'm bringing this up.
Who is doing that work?
Kathleen Reinheimer is
Not personally.
our staff
Not
member coordinating
personally.
that. I don't know who the.
Yeah.
I can certainly get back to council on just additional information on the number of stalls
Well, the
that were lost.
reason I'm asking is Polygon was part of their contribution, and I just wondered if they were the ones doing the work. That's what I'd like to know.
Mr. McIntyre might know.
No, through the chair, thank you. No, they made a contribution towards that, and in fact, it goes back to the original plan and
That's
approval
right,
for the
yeah.
Polygon site. And I think that plaza actually aligns with their main entrance and
It
stuff.
does.
It does. And they wanted to have an amenity area there that they were contributing towards.
Yeah, I remember all that.
That's right.
So they're not doing the work themselves?
I don't believe so.
No, it was $300,000 they contributed. But it was contributed to the city, and we're running that contract. We're running it.
And you know what? Let me finish because you know somebody contributed $300,000, the developer. So you were going to change the park to his liking, not to the general public's liking, but to his liking.
Councillor Sikora, in fairness, the park design was subject of a public consultation process. I remember going to some of the public consultation meetings, and I remember hearing the complaints about the parking lot, the old parking lot that was there. The public really appreciated, I suspect, because I heard from them, let's get rid of that parking lot and let's move it to the other side where it's more inside the park. It's now lockable. There's some security issues that have been addressed. So this wasn't designed by Polygon. This was designed by a public consultation process and I wish Kathy was here.
Anyways, I just pointed out what a waste of taxpayers' money.
Richard, can
Okay, well, that's what public consultation. Brent.
Through the clerk, could we just have the report that was passed in council again for our information and the vote that happened on that to all the council, please?
Okay.
I know I voted at the first time to ever develop Glen Park the way it was.
Okay. Well, we've seen major improvements to Glen Park in the last couple of years. Okay, what was the next item?
Also, Councillor Sikora, either Ranch Park or Mayorga.
Yeah, on the Ranch Park, I'm getting complaints from people that are saying there's a lot of RVs parked in the yards and also some boats that are parked on private property that are bothering the people in the Ranch Park. I had 2 calls. I don't know how important it is, and I didn't drive to Ranch Park to see if it's a major problem or just a little neighborhood problem, but certainly I had a complaint about the boats and RVs being parked on properties in Ranch Park.
Is that time of
You
year?
know about that?
Okay, Mr. Dumont. 25-foot maximum.
Thank you very much, through the chair. I've not heard of any complaint, but we can have our bylaw staff drive through the Ranch Park neighborhood and see if there are any offending RVs and boats, etc.
So, I would like to know what the rules are. Is it 25-foot maximum? I just heard from around the table.
Mr. McIntyre.
If it's stored off the street, certainly it's a big concern and quite illegal to have them on the street for a long period of time, right? Even on the property.
Yeah, on the street, uninsured.
Uninsured, right. But the rules surrounding that?
Mr. McIntyre.
Because I see them all over the place too.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair. As you know, thank you, Councilor Sikora. He did raise some staff this morning, so we had an opportunity to look into it. And it's just as Councilor is speaking. It's in the zoning bylaw. So in our residential zones, it's there as a condition of use. It's one of the accessory uses allowed on a residential lot is accessory off-street parking, as limited by the conditions of use. The conditions of use are that would include contractor's equipment, a wrecked vehicle or boat trailer which exceeds 7.6 meters, that's 25 feet, or a vehicle, a gross vehicle weighing over 4,500 kilograms. I guess it's a large truck. So it's under the conditions of use. You can store your boat there, store your RV there. If it exceeds 25 feet, it's not allowed on that lot. So we have to find other storage units. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and in fact, there are 30-footers in my neighborhood as well, or 1 or 2, and the complaint just, I guess they haven't, the neighbors don't complain, and I guess it's one of those elements where if you're sensitive about the way in which you store it, the neighborhood accepts it, and if the neighborhood doesn't accept it, then the complaint comes in and staff deal with it. Okay, anything else? The next one.
Millardville.
Yeah, in Millardville, I think you better bring in a closed door because it's a land matter.
Oh, okay. And that's it, isn't it? Okay. Before we adjourn, I'll do it this afternoon, but I'll also do it this evening, because we have 2 people with whom we're going to become quite familiar, I suspect, in the room, and I want to welcome Councillors-elect Chris Wilson and Benita Zerillo, and welcome them to here. In a few moments, where we would like to have a discussion in camera about whether or not we're going to be able to welcome. It's not pink.
It's nice enough to do that for us.
They do it every meeting.
Get
Don't
used
worry.
to it.
Yeah, get used to it for all of us. Particularly when we talk budget.
But just the fire chief, trying to make sure that we're aware that fire service is here.